Hello, I'm Stefanie.
And I'm Lauren.
And
This is I've Got Guts,
a podcast about living and thriving with chronic illness. Let's be real, it is really hard.
But it doesn't have to be. You are not alone.
With this podcast, we want to create a community and a space to be able to talk about the tough stuff
And laugh along the way.
The idea for this podcast stemmed from us trying to find one for ourselves to listen to, but not being able to find anything that didn't make us more sad or frustrated.
Our goal is to talk about the hard stuff, but also talk about how to get through it, be positive, have a full and productive life, and of course, thrive.
But before we get started, just so we are clear, we are not medical professionals. We are just here sharing our personal experiences.
All right. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Friday
I mean,
today
you're
for
listening
us.
to this, it's a Monday. So you're like, it's Monday. But for us, it's Friday.
Yay. All right. So we always get into our thorns and roses. Let's start with thorns.
All right. Well, my thorn is my stomach. Shocker. I've been trying to eat a lot healthier because obviously I'm on this fertility journey and that's hard for me because my body loves processed white starches. So I've been trying to add in like a protein or a fat. It's not going well. Like I get to work and within half an hour, I'm like, guys, I think I'm gonna be sick. You guys be okay without me? And I have to run to the bathroom, which is in like a public area where every sound can be heard. And let's be honest, with the way my stomach is, it's not always quiet.
And you say public area. Is it by the copy machine?
Yeah, like why would we do
That's
this
like the
to
worst
people?
place. Who
Put a
does
bathroom
that?
in a corner somewhere. And then the worst is like people are in there talking and I'm sitting there like dripping sweat, like trying to hold it in. I'm like, wait till everyone's out and then let it rip. But I can't sometimes. And it's just, and then I like, if I let it rip and people are in there, I'll wait until I know no one's in there so I can run out so no one knows it was me.
Is this a stall situation? Like, can people see
No.
your shoes? Oh, thank goodness. That
I wouldn't
saves
go.
you.
I would go like out to I would find a porta potty on like a corner street somewhere if that were
The construction workers are out. There goes room. Hey, guys.
Oh man, gotta love our stomachs.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. Well, my situation in my bathroom at my school has stalls and you can see shoes. So sometimes if it happens, I just say, I just got sick in there. You may want to give it a minute. Like people know these days if you work with me.
I feel like if I were ever to get a different job, I'd be like part of the interview process. Do you have any questions for us? Yeah, let me see your bathroom.
How close is it to my classroom?
Exactly.
The joys.
Oh, okay. So what was your thorn?
All right. So my thorn, my blood was boiling. I called room earlier today because, being a teacher, this is my profession. So my son, Connor, is having a tricky year. And he came off the bus today just really, really upset and angry. And it's really hard to watch your son be so frustrated about school. And
Because he loves school.
yes, he is like, loves school, loves learning, is just happy, social. He's just such a bright light. And it breaks my heart that he's so unhappy this year. And being a teacher, I know this profession and I know as a teacher what you should and should not be doing. And it was a really hard day. But Connor and I had a good talk and, we're just taking it one day at a time, but definitely a thorn.
Yeah, that's the worst.
It really is.
When you told me about it, even my heart hurt because, I love him.
I know.
Like he's my own. So I wanted to drive to your house and be like, I'm going to come hug him too.
You'll be okay. It's all going to work out. But you know what? Good life lesson. We're not always going to love everybody. And we got to learn how to deal with people who are not our favorite. And
It's true.
it's hard to learn, but you got to learn it at some point. So
Hard lesson at a young age.
It is. But all right, roses. Rome, what's your rose
I have
today?
a cute rose. My rose is technically from yesterday, but I'm going to make it like a week-long thing. So last year, my husband was like, he's a mail carrier, and he was like, there's a kitten, and someone dropped it at a store, and it doesn't have a home. And I was like, what? Bring her home. So he did. And just so y'all know, I wasn't really a cat person before I met my husband.
She was not a cat person. Well, you say that, but you've lived with cats over the years that were not your cat. I did catch you cuddling with cats over the years.
I know.
So.
I loved other people's cats. I've just never had one myself. And I didn't really know how to interact with them and everything. But my husband came with a cat, and I love her. But then we got this kitten, and she just like kind of imprinted on me, and she's my little baby. And yesterday was her gotcha day. So now we have little Juniper as we speak, she's literally curled up in a ball in the cutest way next to me. But she's just like this little ray of sunshine that I can't explain. She knows when I'm sad. She knows when I'm happy. And she matches my mood. And she like plays with me and snuggles with me. And I just love her. She's my little ray of sunshine.
Yeah, she's pretty nice.
I know. You warm up. Rose are really a cat person.
I'm not a cat person, but
we're getting there.
We're getting there. I actually suggested to Connor that we're going to get her a birthday toy. I mean,
she can't hear that right now. She's sleeping, but she loves toys. What was your Rose?
Okay, so just came off of a long weekend, and I had a very tired week, but my long weekend entailed going to Florida with Connor. And it was like one of those trips where it was like a 4-day trip, and it was last minute, and Connor and I just decided to get away together, and we had the best time. And it set the tone for my week. And a week ago today, I was sitting at the pool in warm, sunny Florida. So just very grateful. So just thinking about where I was a week ago is definitely, and also, Connor was looking through pictures on my phone right before I got here. So it was like a nice little way to put a positive spin on a negative day for him. So it shows we have our thorns, but how do we pivot to our roses, right? So
I did see your pictures, and I love that he was representing the Buffalo Bills the whole time he was in Florida.
Oh my gosh, he was like a walking New Yorker with his New York Ranger hat on and his Buffalo Bills jersey. We definitely got a lot of attention, that's for sure. So,
oh my goodness.
All right, here we go, Rome. This is going to be a heavy one today.
Yeah, I thought my gastroparesis episode was going to be the heaviest, but I think the last episode was kind of like the diagnosis almost, and it was really what came after that was the heaviest and the darkest for me to carry. And I didn't realize that until I was like, taking some notes for this episode, and it's a lot. So bear with me. This is dark and heavy, but like we said, we're coming at you after this, and I'm in a much different place than I was during all of this. So just bear with me through this story. But so at this time, if you remember, I was diagnosed in September of 2019 with gastroparesis.
Right.
So, and the doctor, I randomly had a girl across the hall from me that had gastroparesis.
I mean, thank you, universe.
I know.
Always working out for you.
She recommended me to that doctor who, my primary care sent me for the gastric emptying study, but this new doctor was the one to say, yes, you have gastroparesis, here are your tips. And I talked all about that in the last episode. But then he left, he retired. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a doctor. And then
scary.
COVID hit. And so really, I was navigating all of this on my own. So eventually that practice did hook me up with a doctor, but I was in limbo for 3 years.
That's a really long time.
Other than the doctor who diagnosed me. But I had him for a day?
Right.
So I don't really count him. Before him and up to the new doctor at the practice, I went 3 years without a gastro, which for someone with issues is a lot. And I'll get more into it, but the new doctor they assigned me to, she was so amazing. I loved her. She treated me like a person and not a patient.
And I love that. Can you say that again?
She treated me like a person and not a patient.
And that right there is the definition of a good doctor.
Yes. So I went on quite a journey with her, but oh man. So I did the whole elimination diet during COVID, and it was okay. We stopped going to school in March?
Yes,
March of 2020. Yeah. So March, April, May, June, July, I did pretty good. Mostly because I was cut everything out completely and then was introducing things in slowly. But August hit and my symptoms were outrageous, insane. I was in a flare.
Okay, so what is a flare? Your definition of a flare.
So a flare is basically when your symptoms just kind of start going crazy. And a flare looks one way, and actually my flares have changed throughout the years. And I would consider a flare any kind of surge in symptoms. Mm-hmm. At this point in time, it was everything. You name it, it was going on with me. So I was in, God, the amount of pain. I can't even get into it. So I was in a flare from August to February.
Okay, that is a lot of months. February, 7 months. I
Yes.
just counted on my fingers, third grade teacher
And
over
we
here.
went back to work that September, and it was teaching virtually. And the district that I worked in at the time, we had to be online from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So, I mean, I'm thankful that I was able to be home during that time, because if I had to be at work, I would have been out every other day. I mean, so I was kind of able to navigate it a little bit, but
it was tricky. And if you think about that too, like the responsibilities that we have of showing up to work when you were feeling like death, you know?
when you're a teacher and you have to be like, hello, everybody, and like the happiest person ever.
Right. It's not like an office job where you can sit and just curl up and die at your desk.
Exactly. So I did actually end up having an endoscopy in August, which is crazy because they really weren't doing a ton of procedures at that time.
I remember that, yes.
But I had to go. And I was diagnosed with candidiasis esophagitis, which is thrush in your esophagus. And so for those of you who don't know what thrush is, it is a yeast infection caused by an overgrowth of the fungus Candida in the mouth, throat, or other parts of the body.
Okay, Connor had thrush when he was a baby. I think it's also common in babies can get that.
Mostly when people hear thrush, they think of babies. And babies get it in their mouth.
Yes.
Mine was in my
Your
esophagus.
Yep.
So they put me on like a really super heavy duty round of antibiotics. It did nothing.
Of course.
Yeah. So I had to go on a different medicine. And this one was so intense that I had to have my blood checked every week to make sure my liver was okay.
I mean, it's like really sometimes it's like we're taking these meds and just the risks that are along with them. It's stressful.
Yeah. And I had to do a few rounds of it too. So they would have me do a round and then they would have me wait to see if symptoms returned. And they always did with a vengeance. So this is really what I was going through from August to February. So like for those of you who don't know what that might feel like in your esophagus. So basically like you have growths in your esophagus and it's yeast. So it's invasive and it spreads fast. So
like a fire, right? Like
I was having trouble swallowing. It hurt so bad. Like I feel like I was having a heart attack almost every day. The pain in my chest was so intense and it would radiate to my back and I was nauseous all the time and I could barely eat because like swallowing hurt so much that so anyways, I would have to go on this medicine and I would have to like, the symptoms always returned with a vengeance after a round of this crazy medicine where they had to check my liver and everything.
And like you're putting this in your body, not once, not twice, but like multiple rounds.
Yeah. And I did 3 rounds of it before I felt okay. And so this wasn't even an official like, your thrush is gone. It was okay, your symptoms are good. Mm-hmm. So like no official, I didn't know that it was gone. I just felt better.
Right.
And I felt the best I had felt in so long that I decided to go and surprise my brother in Florida.
Oh, I remember this trip. See, Florida's always a bright spot for us.
Yeah.
Always brightening things up.
My sister-in-law set this trip up, which it was her own engagement party. And she went out of her way to like buy me a flight, get me to Florida to surprise my brother. And like someday we have to put this video on our social media.
Oh my gosh.
Of him seeing me at the door because it's like
I just got goosebumps. It's the sweetest moment.
Yeah. It was honestly one of the best trips of my life. And I think you truly realize how important these moments are when you're so sick for so long.
Yes.
You know, like I was able to go to their engagement party. Like I could cry actually thinking about it. I felt good for the first time in so long. And I was good the whole time I was there. I didn't have any issues. And like,
what a gift, right?
Oh gosh. It was, core memory for me, 100%. Like literally one of the best trips of my life. And it was I was there for 3 days.
Right. But it's like these glimmers after months and months and weeks of dark times and feeling terrible. Like you deserve that.
And you know what I learned when I was in Florida?
What did you learn?
I am the queen of charcuterie boards.
Oh, you are. Oh my gosh. You created the most massive one. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it brought out a passion in me I didn't even know I had. So that was wonderful.
Like, didn't you turn their entire island into a charcuterie?
Their dining room table.
Oh, their dining room table. That's what I remember.
Glorious.
The massive one.
Yeah. But then I came back home and things got really, really bad again. So thank God I went and saw them when I did. Mm-hmm. You have to take these opportunities when you get them. Yes. My flares got worse, if that's even possible. But I was getting... So this is just my way of describing them. This is not actually like a medical term or a medical thing, but I call them esophageal migraines. And it was almost like, when you get a spasm in your esophagus?
Yes.
It was like that, but when I was getting the spasm in my esophagus, I couldn't be around sounds or light.
So crazy.
I locked myself in my bathroom, and for those of you who don't know, when I bought this house, the bathroom was hideous and ugly, and I hated it.
And now it's so beautiful.
So I redid the bathroom because it's like my spot. I live there.
You literally spend majority of your life there.
Yes, I honestly, when I was going through this, I brought my comforter and my pillow into the bathroom. I watched my phone in there. Like, I didn't leave. I couldn't even watch my phone, actually. I was just sitting in the dark for forever. So any light, sound, or movement made me throw up or dry heave for days. Not minutes or hours, days.
Right.
So I want anybody out there who's ever thrown up, top of my mind, I come to like my dad. I think he's thrown up once in his whole life. And he
is only once?
I mean,
come on, Joe.
Not a lot. He doesn't talk about it a lot of times. But like, and he's like, oh my God, it was crazy. And I was puking outside my car. And I'm like, think about doing that like for days.
Right. Like, right. And how that wears on you, right?
Yeah. I just don't think people understand that. So my longest recorded episode, are you ready? I mean, you know this already, but everybody, are you ready for this? 72 hours of puking and dry heaving every 20 to 30 minutes. So the whole 72 hours.
Oh my gosh.
I was puking or dry heaving every 20 minutes.
It's insane when you think about it. Can you even understand that? Like,
the pain was so intense. I couldn't shower. Like, it's a blur. Like, I think my dad and my mom, I think you maybe, like, people helped me with Rena. That's my dog. I didn't have the strength in me to do anything.
I remember, yes. And I feel like, don't you feel like these moments sometimes you almost black out a little bit where you're just, like, you have that memory, but it's so vague.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's terrible. I've blocked it out of my memory because it was the most awful experience of my entire life. But the worst part of all of this, virtual teaching was coming to an end. And like all the teachers out there are listening to this right now, be like, this crazy person wanted virtual teaching to keep going. Well, for me, yes, because I had an hour lunch break. Like if I was going to throw up, I could pause the class.
Right.
And go throw up. Like,
everybody do a quick energizer.
I didn't
Miss
have to
Cordero
tap in
will
a
be right
student
back.
with a code word to come teach for me. I mean, it was crazy. But I mean, if you think about it, we were home for 9 months and I had 9 months to navigate these symptoms. Like, I got very used to having an hour to eat lunch. And I'll be really honest with you, even to this day, I genuinely need that much time to eat.
Yeah.
So half an hour is not enough time for me. And I had to go back to work and I had to figure out how to fit a meal into like half an hour. And I think I said this in the last episode, but lunch is my biggest meal of the day because I can't really eat past 3 or 4. I like to cut it off at 2 because it's just to avoid an all-nighter in the bathroom.
Right. You just know what works for your body and you have to follow it.
So it takes me 12 hours to digest compared to you normies, where it
Normal
takes you
people
like
out there.
It takes you like 3 to 4 hours to digest. So if I think about that, if I eat a meal at 4 o'clock, or if I eat a meal at 6 o'clock, I won't start digesting till 6 a.m. the next morning. So you're sitting in bed and you're like, think of that feeling after you stuff yourself and you have like no room in your belly and you can't breathe and it's awful. Like
so much pressure. It's like so much pressure and it's so uncomfortable.
Dinner's not worth it
right
at that point. You know what I mean? So I survived, honestly, and the only reason I survived is because of the people that I was working with at the time. So from my principal to my TA to my paraprofessionals, I mean, my speech therapist, Tasha, my teacher Bessie, Katie, honestly, I could have, and Mr. Spencer and Shantae, like those were the people who were there for me in that moment. And if you guys are listening to this right now, like thank you from the bottom of my heart. I was genuinely going through the worst experience of my entire life. And I honestly couldn't have managed doing it without those people. And to this day, they always hold a special place in my heart because they walked me through one of the worst experiences of my life.
And when you think about it, you spend so much time at work and the people you work with, you were just surrounded with so many incredible people.
Yeah.
Purposefully.
Yes. So things were so bad that this new doctor put me on a liquid diet over February break.
Those are always fun ones.
Yeah.
Was it a clear liquid or just straight liquid?
No, just liquid.
Just liquid.
Yeah. So remember, the doctor who diagnosed me said, like, give yourself 5 to 10 years to navigate this diagnosis. So I was still fresh in my journey. So
Right. So you needed.
I didn't really have a great idea yet of what worked for me and what didn't. But she thought I had an intestinal blockage. So she basically had me do a colonoscopy cleanse. And for a whole week.
Those are always fun ones.
For those of you who don't know what a colonoscopy cleanse is, you have to do it for like a night. I did it for a week.
Painful.
I drank 3 bottles of magnesium citrate.
That's a lot of bottles.
And guess what? Did nothing. So I wasted my whole week off drinking liquids and pooping for what?
Nothing.
Nothing got better. So she did another endoscopy right after that.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, they had to do my endoscopies under anesthesia because twilight medicine wasn't working for me. So I was feeling my endoscopies and I was sedated enough to the point where I couldn't be like, hello, I feel you sticking something down my throat. So in my head, I was screaming like, stop, I can feel this. But to them, I was just laying there on a table. So we moved into doing all my procedures under anesthesia at this point. So she wanted to stretch my esophagus. This was my first time.
And I was like, you're getting a stretching. You're going to love it. It's so good.
Yeah. So for those of us who have had the Nissen fundoplication surgery, this is actually pretty common. Your esophagus is restricted. So it closes up and it becomes hard to get things down. So I assumed it was just a surgery and the gastroparesis that caused that. Turns out I was wrong. After this endoscopy, I felt the worst I've ever felt. It was really bad.
So frustrating. Like you think it can't get any worse, and then it does.
Yeah. I've had 1 million endoscopies. And this was the worst one for me. The pain got worse. Oh my God. Like that went on for months, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Such a dark time. And it's like, as you're telling the story, like it was just, you thought it was dark and it was bad. And then you don't think it can get any worse. And then it does, just in a different way. Yeah. And these things that you're doing that you think that is going to help ends up flaring you or making you feel worse. Mm-hmm. It's just a cycle of
it really was awful.
Unknown, but almost trial and error too in a way.
Yeah. So I had that done, and I remember I got the call from the doctor. I was eating lunch in Tasha's office, and thank God for that, because Tasha makes everything cozy and nice and like wonderful. If I was in a staff lounge,
oh my gosh,
I would have had a nervous breakdown, like getting this call from the doctor. So I knew I had the thrush. I also had a Schottky ring, which isn't just another weird esophageal abnormality. So I really didn't know what to expect, but I did get some good news. The thrush was gone.
Finally. I feel like that was like a thrush long
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'll just let you know that wasn't my first experience with thrush, unfortunately. The Schottky ring was also gone. So I don't even know what the Schottky ring really was or if it'll ever come back in someday, but it's gone. But the doctor told me that I had lymphocytic esophagitis.
Okay, please tell us more. What does that mean?
To be honest with you, I don't really know. And the doctors even said, like, it's a rare thing. They don't know too much about it. Mm-hmm. They normally would treat something like this with inhaled steroids, but I couldn't do that because I was prone to thrush.
Right. So it's like that would have almost aggravated things more for you.
It would have made it worse. It would have brought the thrush back probably.
Right. Which you finally kicked to the curb, sort of.
Right. And then the next way they treat it is with PPIs, which are proton pump inhibitors, which is basically just acid reflux medicine, which I was already on the highest dose possible.
Right.
Mind you, I was supposed to get off of it because that's the stupid surgery, but it didn't work.
Gotta love it.
So this doctor, the good doctor was on maternity leave, so this was her PA, but he didn't want to nail me down to that diagnosis. And good thing we didn't, because it's never come up again.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So, but they did say they wanted to send me for a manometry, which is a swallow study.
Okay, my esophagus and whole body just shuddered when you said that word. For those of you out there who have not had it or have had it,
rough.
It's a rough one.
So I had the worst experience ever the first time around. Like they shackled me to a table. I couldn't move. It was terrible. For those of you who don't know, a manometry test measures the strength and the muscle coordination of your esophagus as you swallow. So you can't be knocked out for it.
Right.
You have to be awake for it.
Right. And it's like the sound waves, and it's so wild to see it in action.
It is kind of crazy, yeah.
Science, technology.
They actually mentioned they were looking for achalasia, which I won't say anything about.
Okay, achalasia.
It's an upcoming subject for Lauren.
It is.
But I did not have achalasia, so.
Not that I wanted you to have achalasia, but it would have been kind of cute.
Yeah. And I'm also leaving out some details in the midst of all this craziness because I was just in so much pain and like my symptoms after my endoscopy didn't cease to exist. So I ended up having to see an ENT.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
I was supposed to get a SIBO test, but I had to cancel it because all the heavy duty antibiotics I was on for the mess. But anyways, this manometry was still bad because they're awful, but it wasn't as bad as the first time. You know, these people were very kind, and I taught myself a strategy to get through it.
I love a good strategy. Okay, do tell. Yes.
I'm going to shout out my favorite person ever, other than you and Anthony, Michael Bublé.
Oh, Michael.
His song, Feeling Good.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who knows that song, it kind of starts like, you know, slow, and then it builds up and it gets really intense. So I sang that song in my head because you have to control. They're like, let me put this foreign object in your throat and then you can't swallow.
Right. Actually, no, it's not even in your throat. It's up your nose.
And down your
and then
throat.
down the back of your throat. So
Yeah.
it's not just, it is an uncomfortable experience.
So I sang the song in my head. And I made it through the test without they didn't have to yell at me and be like, if you don't cooperate.
Right. But again, it goes back to the art of distraction, right? You were distracting your mind and thinking about something else, taking the attention away from this foreign object going down the back of up your nose and down your throat.
Yeah. And you know what? That song has become an anthem for me because it's
I
like,
love it.
and I tell myself every morning when I wake up, I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling good.
Thanks, Michael Bublé.
Thank you, Michael Bublé.
Maybe you'll listen to this one day.
So, and actually my current gastro, when I go to see them for an endoscopy, they play it for me in the room, but as I'm going under.
Okay, that is the absolute best.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I gotta talk to my doctor. I want to start making some requests of some musical pieces.
It's very helpful. I gotta be honest with you.
I love that.
So the results from this test weren't what I was expecting, which is exactly the point in my journey where I stopped expecting anything from my health journey because I was always disappointed.
Yeah.
Turns out my stomach wasn't the only thing paralyzed by the Nissen fundoplication surgery. My esophagus was as well. I was given an official diagnosis of ineffective esophageal motility after the swallow study. IEM is a condition that occurs where the esophagus has weak or infrequent contractions or has breaks in the peristaltic wave. So my specific case, 60% of my swallows were weak, 20% were effective, and 20% were completely absent, which means they didn't provide enough strength to even move spit down, let alone food.
Which is so crazy.
So I want people to really think about 60% of my swallows were weak. 60% of them, that's majority of them. And only 20% of my swallows work.
Right.
So the only way things move from my esophagus into my stomach is gravity, liquids, and small bites chewed to powder. That's leaving it up to chance.
It really is. Let's roll the dice today. How's it going to go down the tube?
And me personally, I can't eat anything without a drink, preferably bubbles to get things down. It would be a death sentence for me. And honestly, that combined with gastroparesis felt like a death sentence at the time because even if I can get the food down my esophagus, it sits in my stomach for 10 to 12 hours.
It's like, hey, let's hang out here for a long time, and now let's hang out here for a really long time.
And if I forget to chew something down to a powder, it goes into my belly as a chunk, and my stomach has no way to break it down any further, so it rots.
Which is just horrific to even think about that.
Yeah, majority of my pain is the spot on my back where my esophagus meets my stomach. And it's this constant sharp, stabbing, achy, and it's consistent. And I think most people would have given up by now, but I've learned to live with it. Which is a tough thing to even say, actually. Learn to live with it. Most people would have gone to the hospital 300,000 times by now.
It just shows how strong we are, right?
Yeah, Jesus. But needless to say, that stuff was rotting inside of me. It's just serving, and I'm going to make an analogy here.
Okay.
It's gross.
All right, I'm ready.
Think of, you don't really cook a lot, but
Actually, I don't cook at all. Sean does.
I'm thinking specifically of making sauce. Like anyone who's made sauce.
I've made sauce like 5 times.
So when you start, it's really soupy and whatever, but the longer it sits on the stove,
It gets thick.
and like those bubbles just start popping.
Yes.
That's what's going on inside of me. And you can hear it. Like I remember when it first started happening and I was laying in bed with my dog Rena and she would be sitting there like looking at my stomach, tilting her head like, what?
Something's in there.
Sometimes she would even like touch her nose to my stomach like,
She's so intuitive.
are you talking to me through this thing? Oh my God, it was crazy. But yeah, and then you have to think like the stuff's rotting inside of me. So when it does leave my stomach and actually gets to my intestines, it's rotted and poison. And then it's traveling through my intestines.
No wonder you're feeling bloated, feeling pain, feeling nauseous, right?
Yeah. That's where my bloat comes from. Normal people are like, I'm bloated. And then they like let out a fart and the bloat's gone. It doesn't work like that.
This is a deeper bloating than you can understand.
Yeah, you can't. Going to the bathroom and farting doesn't relieve my bloat. It's not that kind of a thing. Okay, can we talk about this?
Okay.
Do you have I'm bloated wardrobe and I'm not bloated wardrobe?
Of course, I even have a sweater at work that I throw on when I'm happen to be wearing something that's a bit fitted, and I don't want anybody to think all of a sudden I got 5 months pregnant in the 4 hours I was at work that day.
Yep, I have a shawl at work.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Sometimes my normal pants don't fit me on days where I'm bloated.
And I feel like with your wedding that was just passed in July, my biggest fear was either of us being bloated that day.
Yeah.
The stress of the bloat.
So my doctor did end up putting me on Buspar, which is actually an anxiety medicine, but it was new in the world of treating ineffective esophageal motility.
Right.
It was a rough journey on that medicine. It took me about almost a year or two to figure out how to take the doses. Like if I take them in the morning, they make me really dizzy and lightheaded.
Oh, I remember this. And you ended up taking
Well, I tried everything. They tried 1 in the morning, 1 at lunch, 1 at dinner. Then the lunch dose I couldn't handle. So they were like, okay, 2 in the morning, 1 at night.
Right.
Then I was barely getting through the morning. So they're like, okay, 1 in the morning, 2 at night. And I was like still dying in the morning. So after lots of exploring, my sweet spot is I take 2 at night.
Okay.
20 milligrams at night.
Oh, wait. Is this when you have to set an alarm at like 4 a.m.?
So no. Yes, it is. So the 20 milligram, the big dose, I take at like 7. So like a little bit before bed. But then I do have to set an alarm for like 3 or 4 a.m. to get up and take the other one because I need to go back to bed and let the dizziness and the whatever subside
work its way out
before I go. But it works, honestly. And it's not like it helps. It's by no means that I'm better. It's just a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
I am so aware of every swallow that I take, like whether it's food or spit. And I'm so jealous of people who don't have to think about that. It's people who just like swallow spit and they're like, it's fine.
And they're just like smiling.
Just living their life. And I'm like, oh my God, the spit's stuck. How am I going to be able to get it down? Like, and then I have to start doing weird things to get this spit down. And I can tell when I have an absent swallow, it's scary.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, I'm going to choke and I'm going to die and it's never going to move down. And it's awful. Like
Those are the scariest.
And sometimes liquid doesn't help. And I literally need someone to beat on my back. My poor husband has to do this all the time out in public. And is that love or what?
I mean, it is love. I mean, Sean does the same thing for me. There are times where, and I have no shame. I'm like, just get it and get it hard right in the middle of the back.
My husband burps me after I eat, and he can care less. And he also cheers me on whenever I burp because for me, like a burp means that
a win.
Stuff is moving down my esophagus.
Yes.
So
yes.
Okay. I feel nice that I got that off my chest. That was a dark one for me.
It was, but I think it was an important one to really break down everything because how many people out there, Room, are going through these dark moments and you're giving hope. And here you are talking on the other side of it. And even if you are listening and you are in a dark place like that, just know that it's going to get better. You're going to find a solution. Like eventually everything you shared, you were getting closer to relief. You were getting closer to some type of answer to get you to where you are.
And I encourage people to not give up too. I'm in a lot of support groups on like Facebook and everything like that. And I see a lot of people give up on this specific medicine because it makes you feel funny. But I would recommend and I always say when I see someone make a post like that, they're like, I can't with the way it makes me feel. I'm like, power through, play with it, mess around with it. Don't give up on it. If it's a strategy that works, just try it as long as you can. Like, they say what? It takes 30 days for a quote unquote habit to work.
Yes, yeah.
Always at least give it 30
days. Yes, because sometimes you can feel frustrated in the beginning, but giving it that time to see how it's going to work out is perfect.
Yes. And Rena is like, I heard you mention my name a few minutes ago, so I'm going to make a comment here.
Oh, Rena.
All right.
Here we go.
Well, that's my story room. What do you got for us today?
Okay, so I feel like I'm coming at you. Well, as we're recording this, we are in kind of the middle end of November and coming on to Thanksgiving. And when I was writing down my notes for this episode, I was just in a really grateful moment. And I just want to share a little bit of some strategy with you. And then I'm going to share just a part of my story that is just such a bright spot, I think.
It is.
It is. So we know that living with chronic illness, it can be so challenging, as Room has just walked us through a very dark time. And, you're walking around feeling in pain, discomfort. You have fear, you have frustration, you have worry, especially when you don't have answers to like why you're feeling that way. And you're wanting to get diagnosed, and then you finally do, and you have multiple illnesses and things going on, and it can be very easy to fall into that negative spiral where you're just focusing on the pain, the worry, the fear. And something that I do know to be true is that, and I've said this before, that energy flows to where your attention goes. And if you focus on those negative aspects, whatever it may be, more negative things continue to show up in your life. I mean, it's law of attraction. So the more you focus on whatever it is, I feel like the worse you can feel. And we've talked about this before.
I know so many people who need to truly listen to what you just said.
Yes.
If you focus on the negative will stick and stay, and it will keep coming.
Yes.
But if you focus on the positive, even if it's one positive thing a day, let your energy flow to it.
Yes. Beautiful things can happen. And I have to say, I'll be really real. I never did like personal development. I feel like in Barnes & Noble, like the self-help section, like back in the day was like, oh God, you don't want to be seen dead in that section, you know? But 9 years ago, when we both started the business that we were running then, someone told me that personal development books and mindset was really key, especially when you're working in the sales world. So, at the time I wanted to be successful and we needed extra money for our family. So I was like, sure, all right, there I am in the self-help section of Barnes & Noble. And it helped, of course, with the growth of my business, but I think more importantly, it helped with my health. And so many strategies that I learned, I could apply to all aspects of my life, not just the business part. And it really shaped me into who I am today and how I'm able to thrive despite having the laundry list of diseases that I do and the laundry list of medications that I'm on. Like Sean literally goes to Wegmans to pick up my prescription. And I really think that the pharmacist thinks he has a geriatric wife, with all of these prescriptions. I mean, it's really true.
You're the one who gave me my first strategy of like gratitude journaling.
Yes.
When I was in my deepest, darkest days, I would find 3 things every day that were positive, and I would write them down. And then at the end of the week, I would go through and and be like, okay, I was puking for like 4 or 5 days this week, but, and then I would read the buts.
Yes.
And those help so much.
Because there's always something. And just what you said, like for me, in my eyes, like thinking, yes, we're all on all this medication, you and I, right? But I think the most powerful drug is gratitude. And me thinking about Thanksgiving, and it's a thankful time. And I know with my students, we're doing our I'm thankful for writing and all of that stuff. But really, feelings of gratitude have the ability to shift everything for you in a moment. So I know this sounds crazy, but be grateful for your illness and your disease. The part of you that you feel is broken, be grateful for it. There's purpose in it all. And I truly, in my heart, believe that. Even when you can't see it or understand it and it gets so dark, there really is so much to be grateful for. And I feel like so many people for a while, like everyone's like hashtag like grateful, blessed, thankful, grateful, blessed, like all this stuff on social media. And I think attaching a hashtag to a moment is different than digging to the root of all that we've been given and just bringing true intentional gratitude to our lives every day. And Fun fact, being thankful. Okay, so of course I'm going to come out you with some statistic here because I need to. So fun fact, being thankful actually has measurable benefits and the science is there. So for me, I feel like a lot of this personal development stuff, sometimes it can be a little like hokey pokey, like, ooh, like universe, this and that. So when I can ground it in science and like numbers and things that make sense, I feel like I can believe it more, if that makes sense. So turns out gratitude has been linked to better mental health, self-awareness, better relationships, and a sense of fulfillment. And there's one way that scientists have actually measured the benefits of gratitude. So there was these two groups of people that kept journals during the day, kind of like what you were saying about your gratitude journaling. The first group was asked to record things that they were grateful for. And then the second group was asked to record times they felt hassled or irritated. The gratitude group reported lower levels of stress at the end of the day. Boom. There's my evidence. Science. I love you. So I start.
Science, I love you. I never thought you'd say the words.
So I literally start my day every day with gratitude journaling, and I end my day with gratitude journaling. And like you said, Rome, it can really help us overcome, I think, just the bitterness and pain that we carry with us, no matter what it may be, whether it's that physical pain that day or just the pain and the memories of the things we've been through or the moments missed or the events that were ruined because of how we were feeling. And this is really interesting. Give it a whirl. Try feeling angry and grateful simultaneously. So you can't really do both at the same time. You cannot be angry and grateful at the same time. It's hard to imagine. So when you're present in gratitude, you literally can't be anywhere else.
And I think it's important to point out that it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like when I was going through my darkest times, my 3 things I was grateful for could have been like, I got to watch an episode of a show that I love.
Yes.
Like I got to read 3 pages of a book that I'm super into. Like you have to find, even if it's the tiniest thing.
Yes. It's so true and it's so important. So thinking about it, last thing of science. I'm just
keep going
tonight.
I love educated Lauren.
I'm just being educational tonight. I just feel very passionate about all of this. And you know what it is? I've lived it and it's helped me and it works. And I'm here to tell you that it really does work.
Well, you've lived it and you've passed it on to me and it works for me too. Like I feel like you personally and a lot of women are going to come forward after this episode and be like, yes, Lauren inspired me. Lauren inspired me. You've inspired so many people to be on this journey.
Oh, Rome, love you.
Love you too.
I love that we're all on this journey together. All right, so here we go. There's this guy. He's a neuroscientist. Alex Korek, I always say everybody's names wrong, so hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. And according to him, we truly can't focus on positive and negative feelings at the same time. So when we feel grateful, our brain releases dopamine, which is that reward chemical, right? Which makes us want to feel that way again. So we begin to make a gratitude habit. So you're legit making a habit out of this gratitude. And once you start seeing things to be grateful for, your brain starts looking for more things to be grateful for. And it's this cycle that you get in. A good cycle, just like what you were saying, right? So whenever I'm feeling frustrated about my health, when I land in the hospital, or when I just don't feel good, or I'm missing something, or I'm at an event and I want to die because I don't feel good, I feel the feelings. And then this is what I love to do. I put them in my mind, I visualize this hot air balloon and I stick them in there and I send it away and I let the hot air balloon go with all my pain. And then I focus on something in that moment that I can be grateful for. And I think all this gratitude talk leads me into my next diagnosis, which is my little miracle. And my little miracle is my son, Connor. So I'm going to get into that. It's a story that when I was typing it out, I really didn't have much to type because it's just something I can talk from my heart. And how big am I smiling right now?
Yeah, like huge. You're glowing.
I'm glowing. So it all started with me having terrible pain and I couldn't even walk. And I ended up going to the hospital. They did an ultrasound and I had yet another cyst on my ovary that ruptured and I was in a lot of pain. So if you have ever had that before, it is a very painful experience. But while they were doing the ultrasound, the tech looked at me and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "You're so sorry? Where's the cyst? Did it go to my, where did it travel to?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're sorry about it?" She's like, "You only have one fallopian tube." I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, did your doctors ever talk to you about this? And I was like, no. And it was like one of those things where, the texts really aren't supposed to be saying things, but they do. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, all right, whatever. I don't know. Okay, so I have one fallopian tube. So our doctor, which we actually have the same, actually we don't have the same.
Practice.
We have the same practice.
Yeah.
Our OBGYN, love my doctor. And she called me with the news that I always say it wrong, so I just call it a unicorn uterus. But basically it's a unicornuate, I can't even say it.
Unicornuate?
Yes, unicornuate. I just call it a unicorn uterus. So basically, it is a rare condition that causes a person to have only half a uterus, and a person with this type of uterus only has one working fallopian tube. So I did have 2 fallopian tubes, but only one was connected. So, and I also have a smaller uterine cavity. So, and it was something I was born with, and they just happened to tell me this. And she goes, Lauren.
Crazy though how long they.
I know, and I never even knew. So here I am with my unicorn uterus, and
How
only
old were you?
one. I was. Oh, it was, I don't even know, 30 something. I don't even know, 34, 35 maybe.
Well,
no, maybe 32.
Right around there. Yeah.
Right around there. So here's the thing. Sean and I at this point we're married, I don't know, 6 years. And, Sean wanted kids and I did as well. But being a teacher, I just felt like my heart was filled with seeing kids every day. And I don't know if a part of me felt like I didn't want to have kids because subconsciously I knew my body couldn't. I don't know. But Sean really wanted to have kids. And I was like, yeah. But after we found this out, my doctor was basically like, Lauren, I am so sorry. And I'm sorry the tech told you this way, but if you are going to want to have children, it is going to be really hard. And you're probably going to have to do IVF. And even if you do get pregnant, to carry a baby to term could be really challenging. So, and I'll be honest, I don't even know how much I heard of that because in my mind, I kind of was like, I'll have a baby. I won't have a baby. Like it wasn't huge in my life then. So I remember going home to Sean and being like, so this is what's going on. And they basically said it's going to be really hard for us to have kids. So we might as well stop preventing anything because I know that we would want to have a family, but it could take years. So we might as well just stop preventing it because it's going to be so rare for it to happen on its own. And I felt like if we got to the point where we got old enough where maybe we wanted to have a baby, we would look into the IVF and all of that. So I just was like, let's pull a goalie and whatever.
Do you remember what month this was?
Yeah. So this was in August. So the beginning of August, it was the summer when I was in the hospital with the cyst and everything. So it was August. So I looked at Sean, I'm like, so we literally don't need to prevent anything because my body is incapable of, even if I do get pregnant, it would be really challenging and I probably can't even carry to term. So, all right. So great. So I'm starting to feel better. And I was training for a half marathon at the time. And so I am race day. It's like middle of September. And I'm waiting to get my period. And I'm like, still haven't gotten it. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I remember I gave my mom tampons and she's like on the side of the route of the half marathon that I ran in Saratoga Springs. If you're a half marathon runner, it's an amazing half marathon. And she was waiting. And every time I ran past her, I was like, she was looking at me. She's like, do you need it? I'm like, nope, still didn't get it. Well, still didn't get it after the race was over. And about 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my classroom with my teammate Heather and our friend Elisa, and we were having lunch. And I'm like, guys, I still have not gotten my period. And they're like, you're probably pregnant. I'm like, there's no way I'm pregnant. They just diagnosed me with this unicorn uterus. They said it's impossible. They said it's so hard. They said you were going to have to do all of these things to get pregnant. It can't be. It's because I ran the half marathon and my body was just off. So
didn't we go out to dinner that night?
So then, we may have went out to have dinner, had a few cocktails.
Cosmopolitans were involved.
They were involved. And when I was drinking the Cosmos that night, I was like, something felt weird. I felt weird. And it hit me. I'm like, my God, no, I can't be pregnant. Like they just told me I couldn't be pregnant. Well, that next morning, I peed on a stick.
And then you came to I was in charge of sponsoring a walk for the
Yes!
school I worked at the time, and you showed up to the walk, and then you told me the news.
Yes, I literally peed on the stick, and I will never forget it. I looked at it, and I'm like, I'm pregnant. And it is that moment, and I could get emotional, and it is that moment when a doctor looks at you and tells you your body can't do it. The doctor looks at you and says that your uterus can't hold it, or you don't have a fallopian tube, or you're missing whatever. And what I did was, not that I accepted it, but I just released it. And I looked at Sean and I said, well, it's probably going to take years. So let's just not even care and just live our life.
So a month later.
A freaking month later. Okay, thanks. Thanks to the doctor. But it goes to show that anything is possible and your body isn't broken and it can happen. And I think because I was so relaxed and I wasn't focused on it, clearly, right? I believed them and I just went on with my life and I was enjoying it. I'm training for this marathon, a half marathon. I'm living my life. I'm having fun. And it happened.
And we'll talk about your pregnancy though. I mean,
here's the other crazy thing I kind of left out. So before that moment of me peeing on a stick, knowing I was pregnant, maybe like 2 weeks before, I remember being like, gosh, I think I'm cured. I don't need my nausea meds. I didn't need my dicyclamine. I didn't need all these other meds. I remember being like, Sean, I'm cured. I missed my pills and I didn't need them. He's like, there's no way you're just cured overnight.
Like, what caused this?
What caused this? And I'm like, this is so weird. Here's the thing. When I was pregnant, my body focused on growing Connor and nothing else. I was the healthiest I ever felt. I felt the best I ever felt. I literally ran through my entire pregnancy.
And you did yoga like 75 times a day.
I was literally Erica, my yoga woman, literally was doing yoga with me, her and MJ at the very end at the yoga studio. I was doing yoga and then 4 days later I gave birth to Connor. Like I was so active. I felt so good. And I truly believe my body was just focusing on growing this beautiful human life. So Connor, my little miracle, was born in June 2015, 9 years ago, almost coming up on 10, which is so crazy. But I think this diagnosis of this rare condition and the fate, if I would have looked at it any differently, or if I don't know if I made any other different decisions, who knows? But Connor was meant to be here.
Connor was meant to be here. And I'll be honest with you, he gave you a spin in your life. I think he gave me one too. Like the moment I met him, as I'm saying this, I'm staring at the picture of me, my mom, and my grandma holding him on the day that he was born. I love that kid like he's my own. Like he made me better too.
Yes.
He's an exceptional human being. And I can say that he's only 9 years old. And I can say that about him. He is the kindest, most gentle, and most loving kid you could ever imagine. And I was on the roughest journey of my life and I couldn't have done it without him in my life. So he brought you the joy that you guys needed. Yeah. And he became like such a positive addition to him. We both needed him. And look at our health lining up. Harold's like, you only have one fallopian tube, but you both need Connor to make you happy. So we're going to bring it to you.
We're going to bring Connor, and Connor is here. And it's so true. He truly is a little miracle. And he saved me. He saved me in so many ways. And he put so many things into perspective. And it's just a reminder, I think, to all of you listening that you're not broken. And even if you don't have all the right parts or the parts are in the wrong places or they're paralyzed or they're not working, you are thriving and you can thrive and things can work out and things will happen for you. And just like it's going to happen for you too, Rome, on your fertility journey. Like let my story inspire you tonight, right?
It just is exactly what I needed to hear today.
Because what is meant to be is going to come, and our bodies will welcome it and will do it, because even in all of our craziness, our bodies can do amazing things. If you really think about it, women really are amazing.
Yes.
We grow humans.
We grow humans.
And then I've kept mine alive for 9 years.
Who would have ever thought?
Who would have ever thought? Well, that was an amazing way to kind of end tonight, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think we went from dark to light, which was needed in this story of our journey. So we're almost done. I think we have one more episode of talking about some of our health struggles before we get into some of the stuff those of you with chronic illnesses might be waiting for, like tips and tricks and guests that we might have on that might really speak to you and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're excited. I feel like it was important to us for you to know what we have been through, so that when you hear us talk, you know our journey.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to feel like, oh my God, they're so lucky. They've had it so easy, because we haven't. It's been really hard. And it's still hard. I mean, like, I don't let a lot of people see the hard stuff. I let my immediate family, I let you, I let Anthony. Those are the only people that get to see the dark, hard stuff. But I always end up on the other side of it. And I think it's a process you have to go through. You have to train yourself to get to that point.
You do. And tonight, our little tidbit on gratitude is just one of the many strategies that we're going to come to you with to help you. And because sometimes some things may work for some people, but they don't for everyone. And you find things that work for you and tweak it. And
so if you're struggling right now, if you're in like the darkest place you've ever been, get a piece of paper, get a journal, start a note on your phone, and just start every night writing down 3 things that make you happy. And like I said, it could be the smallest thing ever. I took 3 sips of water today. Like anything, whatever you're struggling with, like find those little teeny tiny things.
Yes. Like in the morning when I wake up, I'm like, oh, my cozy bed is so cozy, as Sean rolls over and breathes his hot dragon fire breath in my face. Then I'm like, okay, time to get gratitude in bed is done. Cozy bed, I'm leaving you.
Time to get up.
But yes, think of those positive aspects.
Yep.
There's so much to be grateful for as we head into our Thanksgiving and all that's to come in this new year. So, All right. Well, what a beautiful night. I love spending my Friday nights like this.
I know, me too. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.